Hello, everyone. It's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with
Batman's dick.
AKA Ryan. And today we're starting up our podcast, Two Guys Talking. How are you doing today, Ryan?
And it's broken already.
It is broken already. I see that, like, your camera quality is, like, hella pixelated. Does it look like that for me?
Oh yeah, you just stopped. So it was like burp and then it cuts back kind of thing.
Oh, so mine's, like, choppy. Understandable.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we could do, like, just, like, voice, or people can just listen to it, because it is just supposed to be a podcast anyways. Speaking of which, we're just gonna talk like normal. We're just gonna do like a phone call where we discuss stuff. So Ryan, you've been reading a lot of Savage Dragon and Freak Force recently. For the fans at
Well, I read all of the Freak Force.
oh, you've read all of Freak Force.
Well, I mean, there's only like 2 volumes.
I know, but I haven't read like any of Freak Force. Can you give us like a review of Freak Force for like those who don't know about Freak Force and like your recommendation of whether or not people should check it out?
Okay, so Freak Force is essentially a bunch of the other superheroes in Chicago in like the kind of Savage Dragon uh world place thing.
Comic universe.
He doesn't like calling it like a Larson verse or something in the letters pages because it's just like the image world because it's all like one place, I guess.
That's
He's
true.
like it doesn't really need a weird name.
But who is really using it to its full potential other than Eric Larson?
I don't know. Um, so Freak Force is yeah a bunch of like dragons friends who don't really want to be in the police, I guess. So they kind of strike out on their own to be bounty hunters, and so they're fighting the various freaks and uh, villains in Chicago.
Hmm. Which series do you think you liked more? Freak Force or Savage Dragon? I know you're still reading Savage Dragon, but like which did you prefer when going back and forth?
I mean, I don't know if I really like separate the two. I mean, I guess like they're drawn by like Freak Force is drawn by someone else other than Eric Larson. Um, but in terms of like because he's still like doing like the story and it's not very like different. I think
Understandable. Well, I
like
mean,
the
like one,
kind of like feel to it.
well, one's like a team book and one's like a solo book. It'd be kind of like comparing like Grant
Yeah, but
Morrison's.
around issue 40, he kind of folds them into the Savage Dragon. So now it is kind of like a team book
Mm.
with like Dragon as like the head of the team.
He's
And
the
it's
head
sort
of
of
the
like
Freak Force as of issue 40 of Savage.
he's head of the SOS. Like everyone on the Freak Force except for Mighty Man, I think, is I'm pretty sure is a member of SOS. Yeah. Mighty Man didn't want to um join because then the government would be like, we need to know your secret identity, and that's how the earlier Mighty Man died because his secret
Oh,
identity was revealed or like leaked, and then he got like murdered when he wasn't like transformed.
that's a cool plot line for like a Shazam
So the
failure.
current Mighty Man doesn't want that to happen, and also wants to keep her job as like a nurse in Chicago. So she's like, you can call me or something if you need help. I can fly there, but like I'm not on your team officially or whatever.
Would you recommend like Freak Force and Savage Dragon to people who are trying to like get into comics?
I mean, I would recommend Freak Force for anyone who likes Savage Dragon.
And who would you
You know,
recommend Savage Dragon to?
anyone like it's pretty good. Uh, the thing about I like to at least glance through a lot of the letters pages because Eric Larson, especially in the Savage Dragon, has like extent. I'm not sure if they're extensive because like I have only seen like one other non Eric Larson book that I read, recently that had a legend. It was like the Image Attacks, um, or Mars Attacks Image, and then I think also like the Mars Attack Savage. And they weren't like they had letters pages, but they weren't like done by Eric Larson mainly. So like they're like smaller or whatever. He has lots of letters in his letters pages. Like it's like several pages, like 4 or 5 every issue almost. And so you can learn a lot of just information and trivia and things, or like him kind of like reinforcing and reminding that kind of, and keeping it straight in the.
Based
And
on your interest,
where was I going with it?
um, well, you
What?
were talking about letters pages, and how you were getting into them. That makes me curious. Would you be interested in like going to like a virtual con or something where Eric Larson's doing like a Q&A and you could like ask Eric Larson questions like live and he like answer your questions and stuff like that?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
I
Um,
guess I guess I don't have like hella questions really, because I feel like the only times I ever really had questions was mainly I just needed to read one of the other like side books, like one of the other mini series that he's done, like a Super Patriots mini series or something, stuff like that, where I just like answer those questions. I just didn't know where the answer was, but the answer was somewhere,
right.
like in a book, more or less.
The lighting, because you can't really see me, it like fits my namesake, like the jet black thing. But
Like an airplane, like the airplane, like
like there,
and
the light
and
hits
airplane.
just right. I look like an airplane. So
Airplane sound.
I'm glad that you hit up Savage Dragon because I've been recommending it to you for a while. I'm excited for when you finally hit up Invincible because he also does a good job of like balancing like the image verse in his stuff, and Dragon appears in Invincible as well. Um, I'm also just hyped to see you reading more comics in general and you expanding through Eric Larson's stuff. Speaking of Eric Larson, what's new on Spinner Rack? What old comics does he have or not have on his Twitter?
I mean, he was posting a few, I think, yesterday that I looked at. But I mean, the spinner rack thing, it's not like always notable, right? Like he'll like have this thing, but it's not like he had always has much to say about them, you know?
He
Like
almost never
sometimes,
has much to say.
like maybe like one out of I don't know, 10 or 12 or something like that, he'll actually have some small additional comment about like one of those books that he bought or something,
Um,
but that's rare.
let's fill in the audience real quick about like the Spinnerack thing. So on Eric Larson's Twitter, there's another Twitter called Spinnerack that'll post a bunch of like old comic books, and then Eric Larson will be like, "I bought that one. I don't have that one," and that's essentially like the whole post will just be him
Yeah,
pointing out
it's
which ones
usually
he
like they
bought.
post like I think it's like groups of 4 mainly,
Hmm.
for like the Twitter pictures. Um, and so he'll have various numbers, either all 4, 3 out of 4, one of them, stuff like that.
Sometimes
And he
it'll
just
be
does
like I don't have
that
any of them.
a lot. Like, I guess every time they have a post, Eric Larson like quote tweets it and says about like his collection of comic books, which of those are a part of it right now, or something. It's a very consistent thing he does, I guess, which is quite interesting. Like it takes a decent amount of his like Twitter posts. It's like this spinner rack stuff.
If you were to have like a Spinnerack equivalent thing, where every time like X creator posted something, you had to react to it and like retweet it. Like let's say it was a curse, but you get to pick who it is. What like person would you pick like on Twitter and why?
I mean, wouldn't that just be like because I mean, with the spinner rack thing, it's like this kind of like brand corporate thing where like other Twitter accounts, like a lot of them would just be like people or someone, right?
Right.
Like, so it wouldn't even be like some like image content that you're like looking at. It'd be like just their normal like tweets. And so I guess you can like quote tweet or like reply guy on like all of them if you wanted to. But wouldn't that just be like the your like favorite Twitter account or something?
Essentially, I guess that's more or less what I'm asking, but I'm saying it in a way
Like
where it's like you have to
what's
do
that
it the
YouTuber
Eric
guy
Larson
like
way.
D'Angelo or
Yeah,
something?
D'Angelo Wallace.
Like you could just like reply to all of D'Angelo's tweets if you wanted to. You know, like if he's your favorite Twitter account or something.
Is he your favorite
Um,
Twitter account? Like, who's your favorite Twitter account? I know you beat
no,
on Twitter.
I I don't know if I have one particular favorite Twitter account. Like there's a bunch of very useful sort of like anarchist academics that I follow, and so I'm like bookmarking a lot of those. You know, I wanted to like access some of that like reference material and that kind of stuff.
So the audience may not know about your views on like anarchism. Uh, what for like a very short period? Because I don't want it to be like all of that. Tell us a little bit about like your stance when it comes to anarchism. I don't necessarily share in these beliefs, but I want to hear more about like how Ryan defines what he believes in.
Well, a couple of them on Twitter were actually trying to be like, so what's like a short explanation of anarchism or something? So it's essentially like a rejection of like hierarchies and coercion to be replaced with uh like freedom for people. So that's like kind of like a very, I guess, shallow explanation of what anarchism stands for.
I think part of what you said got cut off for me. You said it was a rejection of hierarchies and coercion, and it was replacing that with, and then it's, and then you said, and that's like a kind of like shorter version of what it is.
Yeah, replacing coercion and hierarchies with freedom or
Okay,
like uh, freedom from those coercions and institutions of oppression.
understandable. Um, I guess I have a few questions I want to ask the audience to answer in the comment section. Have you guys heard of Savage Dragon before? Are you guys gonna check out Savage
Wait,
Dragon?
ask them for a person before.
Ask if they've heard of Eric Larson before? Yeah. Have you? Well, also you can ask them things. By the way, they can hear both of us. It was interesting for you to be like, you asked them that.
Well, sure, sure.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Eric Larson before? Are you guys gonna check out his Freak Force series or like Mars Attacks Image Comics or
Cut
anything
off
like that
a bit
from what we've talked
again.
about? Who is your favorite
It's cutting
Twitter
off.
account? And like, what are your political beliefs? So those are some questions that you guys can answer down below. But let's continue where we left off. What were you saying, Ryan? I heard that you were saying something, but I couldn't tell what you were saying.
No, it was getting all chopped up and such again. The connection,
Oh, I
at
see.
least on my end.
I was just asking the audience questions or whatever. You haven't missed anything like
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Um, Speaking of interesting stuff, have you ever heard of super detention?
Like in what context? Like, is that like a
Um,
comic book?
so it's not a comic book. I've discovered this website called Tubi, and Tubi is kind of like a free online streaming service, but it's not illegal. It's not like Soap Today and like the other stuff. It like has ads, but it lets you look at a lot of stuff. And there's a whole bunch of these services, by the way. There's like Tubi, Pluto TV, Shout Factory TV. Like a whole bunch of these things are just like it's free content with ads. IMDb TV. I didn't even know they had a streaming service until recently. But they're all kind of the same thing with slightly different content.
I mean, they had to replace the forums with something, right?
The forums?
Yeah, I heard IMDb used to have a forums that several were talking about, like YouTubers that they really liked, engaging and being in there, and that they shut that down a few years ago. They were bummed about that.
So then it's like you guys
I don't know.
liked
But like,
forums. Now here's a streaming service. It seems like a really different thing.
well, yeah, I know, but like take that away, replace something with something.
Understandable. To me, it seems like all of these platforms are trying to kind of be like what old Hulu was, where it's like you don't need an account, you can watch stuff for free with ads. And they have a lot of stuff. On Tubi, I was watching Super Detention, which is like a Sky High kind of thing, like a movie about like teenagers who go to a school where everybody has superpowers. But the
Does it
plot,
have eugenics like Sky High?
it doesn't have eugenics, but the plot's kind of weird. It's the idea that like their equivalent of Superman is like coming to school and he's gonna pick his successor. So he's like, I'm gonna test everybody, and whoever passes the test is gonna be like the new Superman. But at the start of the film,
Yeah, I've seen My Hero Academia.
it does sound like a My Hero Academia thing. But it has a twist though. So at the start of the movie, the main cast of characters all get detention, so they're not allowed to partake in the test. And then once the test is administered, Superman more or less reveals, I'm not looking for a successor. The test is actually like this device that steals your powers. And now I have like everybody's powers. And they establish that this school is like the place where all the super people are. So he's like, I literally have the powers of like every super person. And then he learns that like he's gotten the powers of everybody except the people in detention. So he's like, okay, I gotta like track those guys down and steal their powers. And it's about them trying to fight back and like save everybody. I haven't finished the movie yet, but the powers are
So it's
pretty
a movie.
crazy. Yeah, it's a movie. Um, so one guy, I'm gonna go.
How old is it?
How old is it? I have no idea. It doesn't seem super old, but I can't tell if it's new because it seems low budget but high enough budget to be okay. It doesn't look super bad or anything, but it's not gonna knock your socks off. It looks like it could have been a TV show budget, but for like a movie. Um, I'm gonna go from like worst powers to best powers for like the main cast of characters. Um, the worst power might be metabolism. His power is that like if he eats a bunch of food, he can convert the calories into like temporary super strength, but it's really short. Like he barely gets to use it.
Yeah, that's like the guy from My Hero Academia.
Who has like the candy thing? Yeah, I was thinking that too, like the sugar or whatever. There's another dude who has like cloning based abilities, but it seems like his clones are like his conscience and his insecurities. So whenever he like splits into his clones, he seems to become more confident, but all his clones are like freaking out about stuff. And he has to tell his clones to kind of
So
like pull themselves together or whatever. What were you saying, Ryan? You're getting real bad. I can't hear you. I just see you like slowly moving toward the camera.
well, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, you weren't saying anything. Okay, I thought you
Uh,
were saying something.
yeah,
Okay.
that's like the same thing on the phone. Where it's like where we know the connection is bad, so we're not saying anything. And then when it comes back, we're still not saying anything. So it's just silent.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah.
So the clone guy, his power's kind of lame because of the whole conscience split or whatever. Um, then you have this girl who she's kind of weird. Her whole character trait is that she's like, we shouldn't try to be the next Superman. They're like, he's like corporate. And essentially, if you decide to like be him, you're like selling your powers. She's like, don't sell out. And she was protesting like the Superman guy coming, and she was the only person protesting it. And then kids start making fun of her because they're like, oh, like you're the only one who thinks the way you do. And she has this power where she shoots wires out of her fingers and it lets her mind control people. She essentially can like puppet them, and she forces them to protest with her. And she's like, don't let the corporations control you. And then she's like, I guess I'm controlling. But whatever. She's like, don't think about it too hard. And that's how she gets detention. And her character is kind of interesting. There's this one girl who's like the most popular girl in school. Everybody like really digs her, but she's kind of an asshole. And her power is that she can summon
That's like a I guess like a trope or stereotype of like a popular mean girl type thing. But like if someone is like so mean like that, they
I agree. Like, I don't understand how someone who is a jerk could be like the top popular person. Because you think that would like create a discrepancy, more or less.
I mean, I guess we just gotta go and rewatch Mean Girls and find out how it works.
See how it works. Um, Speaking of Mean Girls, I'm excited for the Freaky Friday movie that's coming out. That's like Freaky Friday the 13th. It's about like a girl in high school who trades bodies with like a serial killer or whatever, and she has to find a way to switch bodies back
I
before.
think I saw a commercial for that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. Uh, I was talking to Aiden about it, and he's also seems to be somewhat interested. What are your thoughts on it? Like, do you think you'd want to see it?
Mm, not go my way to say like I would be fine to watch it if it was on, but I wouldn't go watch it on soap today or something.
Interesting. So you're like, if you caught it on
Watch
television,
it.
you wouldn't change it, but you wouldn't go out of
Yeah.
your way to watch it, even if you could watch it for free. Like you wouldn't choose to
Mhm.
watch it. That's under.
There's just a lot of shows stuff like that where it's just like, I don't really care, but it's not like really bad um, to like
That's right.
turn it off or something.
Jumping.
And then even a lot of those like really bad type stuff, you can just make fun of it for views on the internet or something.
Oh, speaking of which, would you ever be interested in doing like a riff track kind of thing where we like make fun of something that we're watching? I'm not sure if Ryan can hear me or not. He's too busy getting ready for bed.
I'm already laying in my bed.
Let's see. Oh, but jumping back to super detention, the mean girl, her power is that she can summon demons from the shadow realm, but she can only do it.
Shadow Realm?
Yeah, they call it the shadow realm. I sent you like a screenshot on Messenger because they like put it in the corner of like her introductory thing. But as long as there's like a shadow in the area, she can summon like this smoke like demon creature out of it. And she says that she can summon like any size demon, but the bigger it is, the less likely it is to like follow her orders. So she normally just summons like a little hand that like grabs people. Um, and I thought she was really powerful until I learned about like the shadow thing. Then I was like, oh, I don't care that much. I'm like, mind control girl still seems to be like one of the best ones. But then they introduce the angsty fucking like cool guy, but I don't talk to anybody like Sasuke fucking dude. And his power is that he shoots psychic blast. And I was like, that doesn't really seem that interesting. But then when you compare him to like everybody else that you see, he's pretty good. Like there's a scene where the demon girl is like, "Oh, you're going to talk smack to me?" And like a hell portal opens up on the ground and like an arm grabs the dude's leg or whatever. And it's like because the demon's so small, it's like a minor inconvenience. It's not like dudes like dying or anything. Well, he gets pissed and he shoots a psychic blast at like the demon girl. And the demon girl like barely gets out of the way and it like hits the wall and there's like a big effect on the wall where it broke and it almost hits the mind control girl. And the mind control girl goes, "I could have died." Like that's her response. She's like, "That could have killed me if it had hit me." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Demon girl ain't shit." Because he can like casually do the psychic thing and he has like no restriction. It's not like he has to be in the shadows or anything. If he just wants to shoot you and kill you with like one attack, he could just do that. I'm like, oh, he's good as fuck. Like best dude in the whole room. But then the principal, he actually is really cool. He's in detention with them because he's like monitoring them while they're in detention.
Mm-hmm.
And his power, they joke on him because they say it's like a really low level power. And he has the ability to lock stuff. So in the detention room, he leaves them for a bit, and they try to leave using their powers, and they can't. Because, like, he used his magic lock thing or whatever, and they can't get through it. The principal later fights two guards, and the guards make fun of him because of his lock power, and he starts using the lock power in, like, really crazy ways. Like, they try to punch him, and he dodges it, and the fist hits the wall, and then he goes, "Lock," and then they like, "Oh, I can't take my fist off the wall," or whatever. And I was like, the fuck? Like, that's how it works. And then he essentially tangles them up where they're all like stuck to like different parts that he locked together. And then he makes fun of them and then he like walks away. And I was like, why is it a low level power if he can do that? It just sounds like if anyone tried to like step on you, like try and like walk up to you and hit you, you could be like, "Lock, you can't move any further." And then it's like, what do they do?
I can see why it'd be cool. Like, it doesn't have like a big old flashy like fighting thing. Like it doesn't have like as much direct like say like combat effectiveness or the way that like other powers would be, right?
I mean, if he had like a
Like essentially he's reliant on like the environment he's in to do anything,
what environment
right?
would he be in where he can't do it unless his opponent like flies or whatever? There's nothing to lock me to. Like I don't know.
Yeah, or like if they're in space or something.
That sounds very specific though. Yes.
Flown in space.
Let's see. If you were holding your gun, but your finger wasn't like on the trigger or whatever, like if you were about to like reach your gun out of your pocket, he could be like, "Lock." And it's like, "Oh, my fingers aren't in the right position. Like the gun's stuck in my hand, but I can't like move my finger." I feel like he just fucks you in like a lot of situations.
I mean, probably. Like, can he lock like? So can he lock like your shoes to the ground or something?
Yeah, he straight up does that.
Okay, yeah. So he can potentially like immobilize people really well,
Hmm.
which I guess is like immobilizing people is pretty good, you know. But like that doesn't necessarily help you like I don't know like I mean like you can beat them up or something because then they can't like dodge or like counterattack, you know. But like I don't know. I guess you'd need maybe someone else to actually like grab them once they're
He
immobilized or
could have a
something.
gun. Like I'm just saying, like if he has just extra tools, all he needs is lock, and then he just uses his extra stuff. You know? Imagine like
Mm,
Batman, but he has the lock power. It would be like, oh shit, it's just a better Batman, right?
yeah.
Or maybe more like Punisher, because not everybody can be Batman. I mean, not everybody can be Punisher, but it's easier to try to be Punisher, I guess, than to be Batman. Let's see. Did you see the Hellstrom trailer?
I don't know what that is.
So Hellstrom is a Marvel character who's like the son of Satan or whatever. And in the comics, he's very like over the top, like magic
What's the trailer
character.
for? Like a movie or something?
It's for a Hellstrom Hulu show, and people don't know what
Ooh.
it's gonna be based on the trailer. Like we can't tell if the trailer's just keeping the crazy stuff a surprise, and then when we watch the show, it's going to be like a over the top Ghost Rider thing, or if the trailer is indicative of what the show's going to be, and it's going to be more like Lucifer, where it's like, sure, I'm like the son of Satan or whatever, but we're not doing this thing where it's like I have like fire powers or something. Like it could be just a very low key,
Mm,
supernatural like
right.
TV show.
Yeah.
Um, do you have interest in like seeing the trailer now that you kind of have like some of an idea of what Hellstrom is?
I don't think so.
Okay, understandable. That's totally fine. Boop, 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 boop. So you started, I think, following D'Angelo Wallace on Twitter. I brought up D'Angelo not too long ago because I started watching a lot of his videos. Have you subscribed to any of his YouTube channels yet?
Um, maybe I'm not actually sure if I've done that. Uh, check.
Okay. I
Does he have a
subscribe.
lot of YouTube channels?
He has at least two. Um, and I only subscribed to his big one. He had one that was like his smaller channel that I think he said he was going to start posting to more regularly because it was like a more like laid back channel. But then it doesn't seem like he actually is posting to it more regularly. So I was like, I just will subscribe to his main channel then. Um,
There was one YouTuber I was watching that essentially the secondary channel where he posts a bunch of like smaller is essentially just the main channel now. Like he had like one channel for like video essays, but his smaller channel is just like for other stuff. But then I haven't seen him do any of the like the video essays in a long time. He's just doing the smaller stuff, and that channel is growing,
Now,
which
this is going to be
is
a
fine.
hot take, but I prefer Internet Historian Incognito mode over normal Internet Historian. I really like it when he does this thing where he's like, I'm just like talking to a guest and we're just like shooting the shit over like a call. Or when he does his like pseudo animations or whatever, where it's just like cutouts of people and he does like a skit. I dig those more than the normal content. I love the normal content. I just think incognito mode is my preference. Which do you prefer between like the different internet historian channels?
Um, I don't know if I'm subscribed to I don't know if I've watched any incognito stuff in a while.
Hmm.
Like I'll still watch the normal channel. I don't know if I have enough. So I was wondering if I'd subscribed to Wallace because like I haven't seen him upload anything lately, and it looks like it's been like 2 weeks since then. So even if I was subscribed, I'm sure
Not
I
like
would
you
now.
missed anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. D'Angelo Wallace, for anyone who's curious, he makes a lot of interesting content where he normally is like calling out people, I would say. Like a lot of it is him being like, this person did like a bad thing. But he also makes content that's like, I react to your like Twitter comments and I say whether or not I agree or disagree with like a hot take.
I
And that
think
content's also good,
maybe I'd already subscribed to one of the channels.
but not the other one.
Yeah, but not the other one.
I mean, I haven't subscribed to. I think his smaller one's the one that I didn't subscribe to. Um, Also, Ryan, can you tell the audience a little bit about Internet Historian? They just may not know who we're talking about.
I mean, it's an anonymous straight man who makes funny videos about various events that have been sort of predominantly focused through the internet. There's a similar channel that I came across that essentially makes the same like style and type of videos as him, but I don't know if he's Australian. He has a similar like British sounding accent. So maybe it's like British internet historian guy. Like it's a very similar sort of content and like comedic timing and things. So it could just be like a clone. but it's also like as good and similar.
It is
What's his name? It's like
interesting when you find channels that are like super similar to each other. I like it when they start to diverge a good bit. For the longest time, I couldn't tell the difference between like a Mr. Sunday
I think
video.
it was Big Boss,
Big Boss is like the
which
internet
is a channel that
historian
has like
gambling guy.
200,000 subscribers, and he's only got like a handful of videos.
Mhm.
Um, but it's very similar in
Okay.
the kind of what he's doing,
So if
especially
you,
like the last couple of videos.
so if you guys vibe with internet historian, you guys might want to check out Big Boss based on what Ryan's saying. They sound like they're similar things. Um, Bandit Incorporated and Mr. Sunday Movies used to make like the exact same like kind of content where it would be like the top 5 Easter eggs in like this Marvel trailer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get them confused because even like their thumbnails were like super similar. And I think for a while I thought they were the same channel because you would watch one video and it would recommend the other, and the voices sound so similar and like the artwork and stuff is like the same.
Yeah, sometimes people's voices kind of similar. Like, is this just that other guy? And it's like, no, I guess they're different.
But Bandit Incorporated, I think, jumped the shark. He became very reactionary at a certain point, and a lot of his stuff became like Star Wars, SJW.
I mean, he probably always. See, the thing with that is like, were they always, or did you just now notice?
Well, I would say his content wasn't like focused on that before. It used to be like, so in this trailer, I saw this thing, and you may not have noticed
So they
the
stopped.
thing.
So they made the content more like that. Like they pivoted it. Because like you can just have like a grifter type who just like isn't like that, but then just like pretends to be, for like money or whatever.
Like clout or whatever. Like this is the
Yeah.
trend, so you try and jump on the wave kind of thing.
I mean, a lot of those like kind of anti SJW, anti feminists are just like a bunch of grifters, just trying to like make money off of those like angry people because they see it's like a thing that can sell.
Bandit Incorporated, he started going on that route, and then he started uploading less, and then he just kind of like vanished. But I kind of feel a little
What do you mean? Like, did he drop off in terms of not making new videos, or is like the channel deleted?
so he dropped off as in like not making new videos, or at the very least not making them at any like frequent pace. He used to
What was the name of this guy? I'll take a look. See if it's
Bandit Incorporated. He has like an animal mascot, like similar to like the Mr. Sunday Movies thing, where Mr. Sunday Movies,
Yeah, a lot of people have their rant sonas.
right? Instead of
Uh,
being like a ram that's Han Solo, he's like a cat in a suit. Is his thing.
yeah, that's a thing. A lot of people, a lot of those kind of channels have the same sort of weird cartoon avatars for some reason.
Um,
Because like you don't have to have it. You can just have the voiceover and like talk. Like a bunch of those kind of like people would have like gameplay footage, but they wouldn't have like even like a face cam. Just that or something, and just speak into the microphone. People like listen and such. You don't, because there's like people who do that. There's people who have like a face cam. They'll just like talk to thing, but then they'll have other stuff. Like streamers do that a lot because show the face, and then you have like a bunch of people who have like these cartoon avatar doing like a grumpy face or armful, just like stock animations that they've made for some reason. Like it seems like it's more effort than just
having
talking
just
into
like
the
a
thing
stationary
doing
face.
a live stream.
True. I think it's interesting when you have people who do the stock animation thing for like a whole video. Um, who's the person who will do the tropes or whatever, where she like draws herself and she'll be like, today we're talking about like the 5-man band, and she'll have like a pose where she's like,
You mean
and then she's like, like she has like different like just very specific gestures that she'll do throughout.
do you mean Red?
Who?
Red.
When you suddenly realize that like you wouldn't even know the name if you heard it, like
Red.
maybe.
There's a channel called Overly Sarcastic Production who
Yeah,
has red and blue and a couple other colored people, but they're not as important. Um, Red is the one who was talking about various tropes and like five-man band stuff like that. Like I've sent a few of those videos into the feed, so I don't know if that's the channel you're talking about.
I believe that's the channel. I also think I've seen overly sarcastic productions at Collins before, and I've stumbled upon them while just searching for stuff on YouTube before. I don't think I've ever subscribed though. I've never watched like a lot of their content. While we're shouting out these YouTubers, shout out to Mosaic Comics. He just does content on Green Lantern. He really needs more people to check him out. It's good.
Yeah, Overly Sarcastic Productions is a fairly established channel. They have like 1.3 million subscribers, so it's large enough for people to run into them. You know, like a bunch of their videos are all around like the 2 to 500,000 range on most of their uploads.
Another
So
channel that I'd like to shout out is Ah. It's like A and a bunch of H's. It's hard to find, I will say, because I don't know how many H's are in it, and I once lost it and I tried to type it in and I just couldn't find it. Um, but it's like a group of YouTubers who are already like popular YouTubers who then will do a Discord call and they'll just do some random activity. Whether it's like we react to like images that our fans send us, or we watch like a cringy video, or we like play like a game or something. They always
it
like
was all like
a little
the
bit.
name of the channel.
Yeah, it's called Ah. And then whenever they start up an episode, they go, "Welcome to Ah," and they like scream into the thing. And then they go, "Today we're gonna do." Da-na-na-na." It's kind of like offline TV, but not as cool. Not to shit on Ah at all, but offline TV is a similar concept where you get like a bunch of YouTube celebrities, and you get them together, but instead of it being like a Discord call, they're like, we all live in the same house and we're just gonna do a thing together that's like a crazy activity. You never know what it's gonna be next. Uh, I've been really enjoying offline TV recently. I actually started watching a few of their podcast clips, and I'm like, oh yeah, I normally don't listen to a lot of podcasts that aren't based on like comic books or whatever. That's like my main steez. But just seeing them hang out and talk about like what they do on YouTube and like different games they're playing is interesting. I watched an episode where they were talking about how they wanted to take a break from playing Among Us because they said that they get too excited playing Among Us. And I'm like, cool, more Among Us propaganda.
Excited?
Yeah,
Like, is that like bad? What does that mean?
well, act as if they get really amped, and they were trying to explain it. They were like, you're essentially lying to your friends, and you're trying to be really sneaky, and you get like hype when you get away with the lie, but then you kind of feel bad because you lied. And they're like, I finished playing like 45 minutes ago, but my heart's still racing. And they're like, I need a break. Like, they're like, we should like play other
So they're like
games.
getting too intense for their health. Like,
Yeah,
I'm in a heart attack
they're like it's an
playing video
adrenaline
games
thing.
too hard. Go in hard.
One of the guys on offline TV, his name is Disguised Toast, and he's a guy that I had never heard of until I started watching offline TV. But he's been blowing up due to Among Us. People have been really paying attention to his Among Us content. And on the podcast, he was like, yeah, I'm just enjoying being popular for once. He's like, I know the wave's gonna die and eventually people aren't gonna care. But he's like, as long as I can do it, I got it. But all his Among Us videos are him like trying to Sherlock Holmes, like who done it, like who like the killers are, and he's pretty good about it. Like very early on in a game, he can be like, the killers are these two people, and here's why. And I think that's why people really like his stuff.
Do you think he'd be that Jackbox game with like the aliens?
Okay, so Push the Button is a Jackbox
Yeah.
game where you're trying to identify which of the players are the aliens who are trying to kill everyone. Meanwhile, Among Us is a game where you're trying to identify which of the players are aliens who are trying to kill everyone. Like, it's the same kind of game, pretty much, but no one gives a fuck about push the button. People keep asking me to play Among Us, and I'm like, but what if we just played the thing we already play that's just Among Us? And they're like, it's not as good. It's not as good. You gotta play Among Us.
Is Among Us like is that like a thing that people are doing like because the whole Jackbox thing was like you like stream with like your friends and they can easily connect to it on their phones. Is Among Us like that too?
Among Us is
Like
like
in terms
an
of
app that you have to like get on your phone or you buy it on computer. I've heard it's free on your phone, but on PC it's like $5. So it's not as easy to do because like everyone has to have the app or has to have it on their computer. And it's more of a game, I guess. Because in Jackbox, the whole thing is about trying to find the aliens. But in Among Us, it's like you're a crew on a spaceship and you have to complete tasks around the ship to
so it's
make
like more
sure.
RPG or something?
Yeah, like you have to like keep the oxygen levels like maintained and you have to like do maintenance on different parts. And the aliens can sabotage the ship and travel through like the air vents and stuff to like sneak up on you and like kill you. And then when you find a dead body, you report the body. And then that's when everyone's like, okay, who did it? Like who's like the alien that killed everybody? And you can send people to die, like shoot them out of the airlock, if you think they're the alien. But the game keeps going until either all the aliens have been killed or most of the like people have been killed. So it's not like push the button. Because with push the button, if you keep
You have like a time limit?
it kind of like immediately ends the game, you know? And Among Us, it's like it's not like that. You can keep killing people throughout.
I see.
Um,
So is it just like a better version of the
push the
like
button.
push the button?
I'm not sure if it's
Then I guess like it's
better
like
or
more
not.
popular and such. Then I guess it's more successful in that way.
Well, yeah, like I feel like it's more of a popularity thing, but it's not as accessible.
Trending.
Let's see. But Among Us right now is like the game. Back in the day, when you used to go on like YouTube trending, it would be like Fortnite, Fortnite, Minecraft, Fortnite, Fortnite, Minecraft, GTA 5. Like it's just like a handful of games that like stay popular. But now it's like Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Fortnite, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Fortnite. Like it's just like
So
main.
it's like the newest big game trend.
Yeah. It is the newest big game trend.
Do you think it'll like last, like in terms of like sustainability, the way that some of those can kind of like, cause like something like Minecraft is like really popular, and I'm not sure how. Like I guess it's diminished, I guess in popularity, but like it's still got like a big kind of following, I guess. Still, right?
Right.
Like is Among Us because like some of those are more like flashes in the pan. Like people like get really big into it, and then it gets like replaced by like another big game thing a few months later. Or they're like a bunch of games like vying for this like dominant like streaming game role or something. Yeah.
I think
Or
if
they can get really big and trend, but then it'll die off in like a week or something.
I think if people feel like a disguised toast in the offline TV people, where they're like, we're getting too hype on it and we want to switch to other content.
Everyone gets too hype on it, and so they have to stop, and then the bubble bursts.
Right. I could see that becoming a thing. Um, it's weird to see games that have held the position but had direct competition. Because I would argue that
Do
Minecraft.
we have any kind of like metric for that?
Well, yeah, like remember when Apex Legends came out? People were like, it's the Fortnite killer, overnight best battle royale, everybody's playing it, and then it just kind of died. Oh, did you freeze? Ryan. Ryan. It looks like Ryan might have officially like frozen. Oh wait, no, no, no. He's been
Yes.
freed from cryo.
The connection drops off. So I don't know what it shows on your screen, but in mine it'll say like connecting, and I'll have like a scroll thing, and it'll get all like that. So on mine, when that happens, does it just like freeze up for a minute?
Yeah, you were just frozen during that whole period.
You won't be able to hear me because sometimes I can still hear you a couple of those times, but I just won't be able to. So what game did you say? Because I heard it was some game
Apex
you were mentioning.
Legends. When Apex Legends came out, it's essentially a battle royale made by the people who made
Yeah,
Titanfall. It was a big deal. People were like, the number of players is huge. Everybody's talking about it. It's the next big game, and people were calling it the Fortnite killer. Everybody was playing Apex Legends, and now
yeah. It's always
nobody
when you have
talks
something like
about
a
it.
killer, right?
Right,
Where you have the dethrone the top thing, the iPhone killer, the I guess Fortnite killer. You know, it's like oh we'll replace that, but like in the same kind of like genre space, like market share.
right. It
Like
becomes
our battle royale will be
you're
better than
good.
their battle royale, even though they're both battle royales, something like that.
Right. So we ended up with this situation where like Apex Legends kind of died, and then PUBG was the big battle royale before like Fortnite was like covering everything. Everybody was playing PUBG, and then Fortnite's like we're more colorful and cartoony, and we kind of have the mining building elements that people like out of Minecraft, and we have all these like crazy events and season passes and DLC costume pack, blah, 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 and everybody fucking loves it. So Fortnite just became the thing.
Yeah. So do you think that that's a thing in the like kind of battle royale shooter games where like that they're kind of very similar that you can like hop from one to the other in this kind of like trending thing?
I I feel like all the
You know, because like some of those other games where it's like Minecraft or like those are like kind of like different genres or something. I don't know if they've had like a big trend on those and then it dies off. The uh, looter shooter, battle royales can be.
so I think what makes the battle royales have so much strength, but also makes them very like replaceable, is because of the fact that it's not like story driven content. It's meant to be like a pick up and play. You do it for a little bit and then it like ends kind of thing.
But that also means that like because there's no like story, like it's just like 100% multiplayer really. That if like the kind of like trend, like with the Apex Legends thing, where it like dies off, essentially the game is like dead.
Right.
Like if you build your game around these like multiplayer live services, because some games will have like a single player and then they'll have like multiplayer, and even if the multiplayer is like most of it, if you still have some sort of campaign, you can just play that, I guess. Like some like Call of Duty thing, or it's like some of them have multiplayers, single players like still, even though the big thing is like if you don't have something like that, you sell your game once it's like dead, like this like dead line.
Oh, you froze. You're frozone. Samuel L. Jackson in The Incredibles. You're like Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians, straight frozen. You're like Elsa or Anna, or is it Anna? I don't know. I've not seen all of Frozen. You're back. You're not frozen anymore. But
I'm a Frozen. I've seen. So you haven't seen like Frozen 2, right?
so I haven't seen Frozen 2, and I only saw the end of the first Frozen movie. I was at the dentist, and I was like,
So
is this
Frozen
like a
2 is a
superhero
weird
thing?
kind of broken movie. I don't know how much you've heard about it, but like they essentially didn't know what like the main plot was gonna be like a couple months before the movie was released.
Interesting.
So there's like I think on Disney Plus they released like a behind the scenes documentary, but like people were actually like into it. Like it was pretty substantial. This documentary of like seeing like at what point they were still like fucking around with a whole bunch of this stuff. Like so, like they were doing essentially like they had animated like these like scenes, right? Like these like spectacle things, but they didn't have like a story around them.
Mm.
Like they essentially built these cool scenes and then kind of like on the fly cobbled together a story around it or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So the movie is really kind of disjointed and you can feel, I guess, uh, that it probably was going to go in different directions or that you would expect it to go than that it did. And that's a very Frozen too.
So that's a really like controversial topic right now because people are talking about that with the Star Wars trilogy of movies, and there was like a recent news buzz thing where they were like, we didn't know who like Ray's dad was gonna be like
Right, it's like
portion
the
and stuff
same
like
sort
that.
of thing, but I think maybe even like harder. I'm not sure. Like I compare like how hard the behind the scenes fuckery between like Frozen and because it like it in Frozen I don't think they were like it wasn't like they were like changing directors or anything like that. It was more like the team just kept not being able to decide on what the story would be,
Mhm.
right? Uh, which I guess like the same thing applies to like JJ or something, but like you know it's I don't know if it's like there's like one kind of writer director guy that you can point in that. The thing with the phone calls thing and this is I think that the phone calls if they drop, they'll essentially like you'll lose the call, like the call will like actually disconnect. Whereas this, it seems that even if it waits like tens of seconds,
Oh, you're frozen.
like it's like
You're
dropped
back.
out and gotten like locked up several times now, but it hasn't like actually disconnected fully like this Facebook phone call thing.
Right. I mean,
So maybe that's an advantage slightly over the phone calls in this situation that we're not like walking around, that we have like internet connection or something. But the internet connection at my house was noticeably being quite temperamental earlier today. That the box had to be reset and things.
Ryan,
Especially if it was a power outage. Was it last week or something? I'm not sure if the internet connectivity at my house has really recovered since then.
mm, do you have a surge protector on like your router or whatever?
I don't think that's it. I think everything just gets like, you know, like, I don't know, like unaligned or like it all needs to be like recalibrated or something. So you gotta like turn it off and on again. That's not that it's like broken. It's just that you have to like, you know,
You're like
yeah, like
running
recalibrate
full
everything.
steam or whatever.
Yeah.
Ryan, is it worth it for me to have the light on? Because I'm just like a silhouette. I'm not even like intentionally a silhouette. I feel like
Mm.
I'm ER or something. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, it's just like this like black shadow, or it's like the out. It's not even like a head shape, because like the dreadlocks have this kind of like uh, I don't know, like I guess that is like what your silhouetted head shape is,
Right.
but like people wouldn't be able to tell that it was like like they could think that's like the ring or something where you have like the hair covering your face, because they can't tell either way. Like that could just be the dreadlocks covering your face.
Well, I mean, when I get the smile out or whatever, it's weird you can't see my eyes. Like I'm purposely opening my eyes a lot right now and I can't see my eyes. I guess they're not white enough. I don't have white enough.
I can't see your eyes. I can see your mouth, your teeth
Yeah, that's because the
still,
teeth
but
are
like
just really white, I guess.
your eyes are just gone. He's like he's like All Might that just has no eyes, but like his whole face is like that. His whole face is in shadow.
His whole face has no eyes. Did you cut off your light?
Yeah, I cut off my light.
Well, I guess we're going no light game. I normally don't use. Oh, but you had a second light. That's smart. Hold on.
Got him. The
I
reading
got you
light.
on the
Pop, pop,
second
pop,
light.
pop.
Oh, is this better?
I mean, probably. So
Yeah.
that essentially what you're doing there is what I was doing in like a Zoom class, or I'll cut out the light, and then the computer screen will illuminate my face, so they'll be able to see me like making expressions, I guess, but they won't be able to see my messy
Your
room or
environment.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need to see any of that. And then I could also just like move in and out, like closer and
Oh,
further
and then like
from the screen.
vanish into the darkness and
Yeah, or like put the brightness up and down, so it would, like, or I think it was like if I opened other tabs, it would like be different colors.
Ooh.
Um,
I could kind of do something with the different colors thing. Let me see. So,
I just like blend into Jet screen,
is it's just
into the
a
background of
tiny
Jet.
corner.
You can't even see where I'm at.
Let's see. So now I have like a color changing effect on my face. What do you think, Ryan?
It looks like you're flashing something there.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be like different colored lights. Like, is that cool? Or is that lame?
No, not really. Like it's not very noticeable.
It's not very noticeable.
I mean, like you can see there's flashing, but I don't think you can really discern much in the way of the colors.
Understandable. I'll just switch it back to normal. Or how about this? I can enhance the light by just changing it to like the Google homepage. Now it's like a ton of white light is specifically like going to be like a brighter thing or whatever. It makes it look like you're like in a horror movie or something because you can't see any of the shit around you.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's like.
Let's see. Um, I have my phone in my hand, but I don't know why I grabbed my phone. I don't know what the purpose was of having my phone. Oh, why is it that I can't hear you on the phone calls now? I'll call you and I can't hear you from the on.
It's not that you hear all of them. It's just like I was saying, like some of them cut out and you can't hear. I don't know what the thing.
But I'm saying like the last few, it'll be like you
Right.
answer and it's like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's connected, but there's no sound going through. So I don't know what the problem is.
Because it's never been that bad. We're in like new territory.
Well, like, at that point, it usually just like drop the call instead of whatever that is. So this is new, I guess, relatively new.
Do you think people are gonna fuck with the podcast?
I don't know. It's possible.
It's a possibility.
The podcast. Make it sound like it's a thing that's real as opposed to just people talking.
What's the difference? I don't.
There's anyway, usually there's like microphones or some shit.
What? There must be a microphone or they can't hear
You
us.
don't have to have any kind of setup really to just do a podcast. I
Right.
suppose.
Podcast can be whatever you want.
True
Now that
crime podcast, a not true crime podcast, all of the options.
those are the two. Which are we? Are we a true crime podcast or a not true crime podcast?
I mean, unless we're talking about like Among Us, I guess we're not the true crime.
Let's see. I was thinking about something, but my train of thought is gone. Oh, I'm gonna shout out some YouTube channels. Check out Comic Pop. They have the series called Back Issues, where they have one guy who's super knowledgeable about comics and two guys who aren't, and he describes a comic book to them. He's a really cool dude. He recently did an interview with the person who wrote Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is like a really cool post-apocalyptic Wonder Woman story. I haven't seen that interview yet, but I'm kind of excited because I watched the Back Issues episode about Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and I thought it was pretty hype. I've told Ryan a little bit about Wonder Woman Dead Earth, but I don't think I told him too much. Like, he could still read it if he wanted to. Or watch that Back Issues episode, like you guys should. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else that's, like, super hype to discuss? As if the last thing I said was super hype. I really don't know what people like
No, it's all
sometimes
been
when it
very
comes to these
boring and
topics.
not super hype. It's been anti-hype.
Welcome
Hype
back to the Anti Hype Podcast. Today we'll be talking about lawnmower clippings. Many
it
people
doesn't have to
talk
be long,
about,
but you can just like be like, we're gonna be very fair and balanced about this trailer. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. No hype. Not even like hating on it hype. Like a hate dumb type thing, or like the Star Wars gonna make 20 million videos about the one movie for some reason. It's not even that. It's just very run of the mill boring. That's the anti podcast.
hey guys, I just watched the new Hellstrom trailer. Here's my reaction. Okay, thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this, this is very middle.
I mean, you just do like one of those like normal old timey reaction channels where it's just you're just sitting there, not saying anything, watching the trailer, and then at the end you're just like, yeah, it was fine. That's it.
Those are always the most disappointing to record. Because a lot of times when you're recording a reaction video, you don't know if you're gonna be hype. So you spend the time recording yourself watching something, and then at the end, if it wasn't exciting, you just end up going, "Is it worth me posting? Like, why should I like upload it then?" Because then people are gonna
Nothing
ask
happened.
me like, "Did you see the thing?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, but
You want to see me seeing the thing?
yeah."
Nothing happened. I saw it
Back when Matt and I used to hang out, he said that
back in the
reaction
day, back when
videos.
Matt was your friend.
Mhm. He used to say that the reaction videos were like superior content to like the like video itself. Because he's like, why would you watch the video if you can just like see the video and you get to know what like the dude feels about it, kind of thing. I disagree. Some reaction content makes like the main content worse. I know I have the volume of whatever the thing I'm looking at like very low whenever I do it.
You can't even like hear it.
Right. So I don't really think it's worth it if you really want to see like the thing. Like you might as well look at the thing if you want to have your own reaction to it, and then look at my reaction video if you want to see my reaction to it. Um, so you don't care about dual links, right?
Pretty much.
I too do not care about Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links that much, but they did just introduce Zexal, so they have like Xyz on Duel Links. I don't know how I feel about that, cause I'm not sure how well you can balance Xyz in like Duel Links versus like others.
These are already pretty balanced as terms of mechanic. Like they're hard to like rapidly like evolve without just having a card that just can like overlay on top of another thing. Yeah, because they tried the whole like um what are they called? Like there's a whole spell card bunch of them. Ah,
Rank up spells.
yeah, like no one uses those. It's always just the like the Utopia, the lightnings you can just pop on top of the other thing, like Zodiac style. Zodiac is essentially like peak Xyz where you can just put it on top of the other thing. And then because a lot of them like I said it's part like they don't have a lot of necessarily great like effects. Like a lot of the Xyz aren't good, like relative to the materials and cost. And that also means you can't really like revive them and like get their detach effect, right? Like so you can't like just special summon it out of the extra deck and do anything with it because it just doesn't have materials. So like unlike things like synchros or like link monsters or really like any of the fusions or things that you can just like be like and I special summon it like ignoring the summoning conditions. Xyz can't really do that on a lot of those. So a bunch of them just aren't functional, even if you could
Well,
like do that most of the time.
I think it's the speed duel format that to me makes me think that Xyz would be really strong. Because you have to keep in mind they only have cards from like the original series up to Zexal, and
Mhm.
then they only have like a limited card pool of those
Yeah, yeah,
anyway.
I know. Like the meta is like different things, but I'm just like I don't know how balanced that like which exceeds like utopia, like base utopia. It's like I can negate attacks, and he's got 25. Like, is that good there? I don't know.
I mean, it might be good there because they also have like less life points. But they also have smaller decks. Like it probably is
Yeah,
easier to go into like fusions when your deck is like half the size.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, but like, I don't know which because like some of those because like a bunch of the season things were good, but because they're so kind of dependent on I don't know, like a bunch of ones are just kind of dependent on like specific decks or archetypes to be able to summon them. You know, like leveled things that can get those on the field. You know, besides like the level fours. You know, you're like dragon rulers with like the level sevens and stuff like that. Whereas if the deck and because like I don't know how strong like because like you have archetypes in Duel Links and things, but it's like you know you still get the lower deck size, so maybe you could still summon these kind of things, but especially like high level exceeds, right? Because like rank tens or something. Like the whole point of that is you could like use like trains or like like metal reflex finally like special summons of like these high level things for free or relatively easily. I don't know if you can dual links so that you probably won't be able to summon like because you're not like there's not like as much of like the normal like summoning level 10s or something like tribute summoning level 10 like that's not really a thing to then exceed into because then you're going like -5 or something just to do one like Gustav max like you're not summoning god cards to exceed material these guys so like I'm not even sure you could really get a lot of the high level exceed monsters like the base materials on the field as consistently in something like Duel Links.
Now, you also have to keep
Or
in mind Duel Links has those character powers or whatever too that
yeah,
boost
well,
different
something
things.
like Ragno Miniad, which was like one of those like it can go up to like 5 materials and things. Whereas like Ragno Miniad, you could only summon like I guess maybe 3 or 4, probably 3 of like the materials. Just like at all, like so it'd only be like half as effective as its maximum power is, stuff like that, or like the like hazy flames or something, where it's like I just want to have as many Xyz materials as possible, and it's like the field size is diminished, so like those like maximum ceilings are just like lower or something.
Oh, in like 3 minutes, I'm gonna have to get off for a little bit. I'm gonna like relax like for the night. But I'm still with you like until then. Like I'm still like, in the call and everything.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to anything that happens in Duel Links like at all.
Fair, fair. I saw stuff pop up in my subscription box, and people are getting like hype about it. But people get hype whenever there's like a new big change to a game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Jump Force. They recently introduced Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, and niggas were like, "People still play this game?" Like it wasn't really that hype, but that's fair. Um.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
speaking of anime games, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 has a light version that you can play for free, that you can play online with your friends. That's on PS4. And I'm like, hold on. So they're making it almost like an MMO. Because you used to just buy Xenoverse 2 and get the full game, but now it's like make your own custom Dragon Ball character and like play with your friends and do quests and stuff for free.
Dragon Ball GT Custom.
Uh, that sounds a lot like Dragon Ball. Well, Super Dragon Ball Heroes feels a lot like that. Uh, that's a bunch of fan stuff, but it's not fan stuff. Like Super Dragon Ball Heroes is like, what if we made fan fiction, but it was like official, but it's not canon. So they have shit
Yeah, like
like
Sonic Heroes or no Sonic Forces, Sonic the one with the
mm,
OC.
it's not like
OC.
Sonic Forces. Because with Sonic Forces, it's like canon. Like that still happens in like the Sonic like video game universe. And Super Dragon Ball Heroes, they have stuff like characters transform into transformations that they never got in the show or in the manga. Or like you see fusions that like never happened. Or characters who were dead are like back and they're like stronger than they ever have been. Like when they introduced like Golden Frieza, the idea that Frieza had like another form, they then were like, well, Cooler would probably have a golden form too. And it's like, isn't Cooler dead? Nah, Cooler's back and we got Gold Cooler and shit like that. Um, so that's like the whole appeal of like Super Dragon Ball Heroes is you see this stuff that you could imagine like a 4-year-old would come up with. Like, well, if the Cell has the cells of Frieza in it, then couldn't you have like Golden Cell? And they're like, we'll do it, and we'll make it a card, and you can buy it, and you can play it in the game, and we'll have the promotional anime, and he'll fight him. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Gosh. Golden Cell. Would that even be better?
Well, he'd be like a higher form than anything that's a higher form is normally better.
Yeah, sure. But like, okay. So like the Golden Frieza thing, where he's using like what, like 100% like efficiency or something.
Golden Frieza, the only explanation we have for it is that Frieza's like, I never trained my power. Then I trained for 3 months and I became Golden Frieza. Like, that's it. He trained a little bit and he's like, now I'm just really powerful.
So Cell's just like, I trained a little bit. Like Cell doesn't do training, right? He just like evolves his form, and now he's like, super perfect. When does super perfect ever do push-ups?
Well, then I guess that would be the thing. Because can Cell
Like, is super
be
perfect as
perfect?
strong as Cell can be
That's the way
without?
it talks, but I don't think it's accurate. You know? Uh,
He could just do some more workouts. Spend some time in the hyperbolic time chamber, and now Cell's doing it. Like
now,
he's never done that.
if Frieza went into the hyperbolic time chamber, because he only trained for 3 months, but a day in the time chamber is like a whole year, would Frieza be
Yeah.
like, I'm now Platinum Frieza? Like, does he just have metal base forms? Like, I don't get it. Um, there are characters in Dragon Ball now where when they transform, they say that they pick their color. So Frieza's like, I chose my golden form in order to like mock like the Super Saiyan thing or whatever. And then Super Saiyan Rose is like, isn't it eloquent? Like I picked like the and I'm like, why can you pick color? No one ever did that before. I've never heard of the like is Goku eventually gonna be like purple was actually my favorite color the whole time? And then he like changes into like
Uh,
purple Saiyan?
it reminds me of like the Susanos in Naruto, how they're all like kind of like different colors. I don't know if anyone gets to choose their, but they're all like, it's like, oh, we need to differentiate it. So what color haven't we used yet? Kakashi, you get like a light blue or some shit. I don't know. Or you're gonna use
So are
dark
those
blue
different
and
colors in
purple.
the manga?
I think everything's like a different color actually in like in the anime, like just generic like chakra use is like this kind of bluish, where I think it's like yellow or like golden in like the manga. So things might just be different colors.
Interesting.
A little. Um, I'm not sure about the Susanoo because like a lot of the manga is just like in black and white, so it'd be in like those rare like colorized chapters or something, right?
Right.
Which is rare enough.
Have you ever read
But
a manga where you didn't know what the characters' colors look like beforehand? Because I feel like every time I look at a manga, they have like a cover image and I'm given
yeah,
an idea
I mean,
of
because
them.
sometimes it can be like that. I get because like there's some mangas like online where it's like they don't like the manga website doesn't like upload the covers. You know, because like a lot of them they don't upload the cover like arts the way that like the comic books do. Like you just won't feature that like anywhere because it'll just be the chapters and it'll just go in on the chapter pages. So you wouldn't actually see those all the time. So sometimes I'll be like, oh, that character is like a brunette. I can tell from just the black and white the whole time. Like, especially when they have like anime hair color, you can't actually tell unless you have like an anime.
Ooh, you're starting to get slightly chopped, but I think I caught the gist of what you were saying. Um, Speaking of like anime and manga and stuff, Hunter x Hunter, watch Hunter x Hunter is really good. Oh, we were talking about like chakra and like energy auras and stuff. You got the Nin system. Hunter x Hunter is really good. You should check it out. Fucking great.
Nintendo.
Um, I haven't watched. Oh, that's a lie. I was about to lie directly to your face. I was gonna say I haven't watched like any anime
Directly
in
to
a
my
while. Uh,
anyway.
I was about to say that I hadn't watched any anime in a while.
Oh,
But Majin Bone, I watched the first few episodes of that. I'm kind of pissed that it's subbed. Because even when I was trying to watch it, I was like exercising, and I didn't know it was subbed. So and when they started having the subtitles, I was like, I guess I'll try to exercise and watch the show at the same time. And I think the whole time I was watching those 3 episodes, I was also just doing other shit. And I was like, this isn't, I can't like keep up with everything. But it's like power armor, superheroes, and there's not like a whole bunch of like babes or anything like that. But the main character does read books similar to like how Kakashi will read books. So you'll see like hints of babe stuff, but it's not like it's full of that. Um, but Majin Bone looks like it could be interesting. I'd have to look more into it. It's on Tubi, that like streaming free but with ads thing I was talking about earlier. Same thing that Super Detention's on. That thing that I talked about for like a few minutes.
what about like manga reading? Because like in the Marcus's video where he's talking about like reading the
JoJo.
uh JoJo's, like have you had any like inclination for reading of mangas
So I
or something?
used to read the Dragon Ball Super manga, and I was like caught up on it for a while. And I used to read the Boruto manga, but I was reading them both on the same site where you were reading manga that's now no longer up. Um,
Yeah.
Viz, is it Viz or is it Shonen Jump? I think it's Shonen Jump maybe. Has like a website where you can read like the new manga chapters for free, and I
Yeah.
just have never really used it. I think I've only ever used it when I was like I was looking for something that hasn't been uploaded illegally yet. So I guess I'll go to the legal thing and I'll check to see if it's there. Um, I just don't use it, but I probably could. I'm so behind on.
And they say that like Crunchyroll has like a manga like app and like area on their website. I'm like never using it. I don't even know if they have very much in the way of like popular like there's only like a couple like titles or something that I would even want to use like that I'd even like care about on their manga thing. I think it was just like Seven Deadly Sins manga was like the only manga I cared about that they like had. And then I couldn't figure out how to use their app well, and so I like skip in, and I was like spoiling shit. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to see that. I was like, this app sucks, and I just never used it again.
I've learned that the DC Universe app for reading comics, I used to not like it. But I think what I didn't like about it is that I was reading old comics, and I don't think the old comics have been implemented well. Like I feel like it's harder to just like go through them and read them easily. I started reading Grant Morrison's Action Comics run from the New 52, and it's reading very smoothly on mobile. I haven't had any real issues with it. Whereas when I was reading like Wonder Woman War of the Gods or whatever, I gave up reading it on that. Like I started on the app And I was like, fuck it. And I just went to look at it illegally. And
What was wrong with reading on the app though?
I feel like reading it on the app, it's like an issue of if something's too small and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna like zoom in to try to look at it. You could run into issues where it's like, oh, you tried to zoom? Well, you actually like flip to like another thing, like you skipped like a page. And then you would have
Yeah.
issues where you flip the page and you know you missed something. Like you know that the app skipped something based on the
Yeah.
context. And you're like, why did it skip it? And it's like you can see that it's like flipping an extra page or some shit. Like it's like it goes past the thing that it should go to, and you're like, why? I don't know why it like passed that thing. It would do stuff like that, and I felt like that was like overly frustrating. Like I don't know why it was like that. Speaking of Wonder Woman: War of the Gods, because I told you about that back when I was reading it, they're now doing a dark multiverse version of that story. So I'm curious to see.
It sounds like the Dark Multiverse is just like, oh, a story? Yo, we're gonna have more of that in the Dark Multiverse. Oh, you wanted that? We'll have it again, like 2.0.
So
It's down here now.
the dark multiverse stuff to me doesn't make any sense because they keep doing things that don't make sense within the context of a dark multiverse. And we've talked about this before with like
Yeah.
they have Crisis on Infinite Earths in the dark multiverse. And like, well, what does that mean? Um, but they also with the War of the Gods, it doesn't make any sense because with the multiverse you have like the God sphere where like
Hmm.
all the gods are the same gods. There aren't like multiple versions of them. So how can you have like a dark multiverse War of the Gods? Because it would just be the same gods. Like when they be doing it again, and when they all be like, yeah, hold on a
Okay, so that's a question though. If the Dark Multiverse is like an entire multiverse again, but like down there, do they have reflections of? Because it seemed like it was always just like new 50 or like 50, like the worlds, like the universes were like, like kind of like the imaginary creations. But I don't think gods here, but like the speed force like ends like in the dark multiverse. Like what are those just like also things? Are they also like dark? Like how are those things even dark?
So like
Or,
there are still flashes in like the dark
yeah.
multiverse. So they must connect to the Speed Force, and they refer to the Speed Force in the dark multiverse. It seems like the dark multiverse is more of like the world. There are more worlds. It's not that like there's a reflection of the God sphere and a reflection of the Speed Force and a reflection of
I know what you're talking about, like for
I
the
believe
multiversity map, and then it's like you
you
flip
flip it
that whole
upside
like
down.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you did that, wouldn't it also just have all those other spheres, but on the
So
back cover or something?
the reason why it doesn't is they've explained that all worlds when they're created at the World Forge, they either like rise or they sink. If they
So it's
rise,
that. So like there's just like one speed force, and it's up at the top of the floating ocean analogy.
right, pretty much.
Okay.
It's weird. But they're using the dark multiverse the way that they should just use the multiverse. Like DC Comics used to come out with books called Elseworlds, and it would just be like, this is an Elseworld story. It takes place
But now
in
it's
alternate
this is a
universe.
dark multiverse place,
Right. But
but it functions the same.
it does, but it shouldn't is the problem. Like it shouldn't function the same.
Right. But they're using it the same.
Right. And another thing that I dislike about it is that they have this big push at DC that like everything's canon and everything exists somewhere in the multiverse. But the whole point of the dark multiverse worlds is that they're like temporary. Like eventually they like fade away and they die. So it's like Jim Lee's trying to push the idea that like whatever Batman is your favorite, that's like just as canon and just as official as like any other Batman. But if my favorite Batman is a dark multiverse Batman, you've told me like by his inception that he's a temporary character that won't continue to exist and will die unless they get moved to like the main continuity.
So there's like an infinite main continuity, and then there's all these dark multiverse guys. And wouldn't like anything that's happening in the dark multiverse also just have like a theoretical like corresponding situation universe in the normal like area?
When it comes to like the infinite multiverse and what exists in it versus what doesn't exist in it, it's like if you haven't seen it, you can't necessarily say it's there, is what I would say.
So it's not like a many worlds thing where it could just be anything.
Right. It's more like a if we do a story where Batman's like a cowboy.
So like until they write that Elseworlds, it's just not a thing yet.
Right.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know. Like using the dark multiverse as an Elseworlds, I think it ruins the concept of everything's canon. You can read any story and like all stories matter. Because the dark multiverse seems to literally be these stories don't matter. Like it's the place where you put the stories that don't affect anything
If
else.
if if it's like the place that they don't matter, why would you have these kind of like Elseworld, like we're having Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Dark Multiverse? Like, why do that? Like, what is even the point of that?
It's because the dark multiverse, the reason why the worlds like sink down or whatever, is because it's like they're the corrupt like fears of people, but also it's supposed to have people's hopes, and they always ignore that part. That it's like the hopes and fears. It's always just the fears. But it's supposed to be like we can retell stories we've already told, but it's like the darker what if. Like the death of Superman. They did the death of Superman in the Dark Multiverse, and Lois Lane becomes the Eradicator, and she starts like killing people. It like they do stuff like that. Um, and that story isn't like a bad story, but it just doesn't mean anything because it's just gonna not exist. You know?
Right. Like it'll just fade away.
Also, I don't get the like.
So does that mean you can't like do like a time travel to those dark multiverses or like worlds there? Because like if they don't exist anymore, like how does time travel work in that kind of paradigm?
So I would argue that like hyper time makes it where all stories matter, but they never use hyper time anymore because they always replace the multiverse or hyper time with like something else. So the dark multiverse is like the new like never ending expanse of like we can add more stuff. And before
Okay.
that it was the multiverse, and before that was hyper time, and before that was the multiverse again. You know, it's
Yeah.
stupid. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. DC Comics, I always have something to say about like their weird continuity choices. I'm just waiting for everybody to remember their entire publication history. When they do that, I have a lot of questions. But that's the
Will they do that, or will
about
they
stuff.
just drop it again? Because it sounds like with this like infinite multiverse doing it like over and over again, it sounds like they can just like make a status quo, but then no one like adheres to it or like cares, and then it doesn't matter, such that they try to do it again.
That's true.
Like if anyone remembers their publication history, you can just not write that into mattering at all.
True.
Like it just never comes up that everyone should just remember everything that always happened or whatever.
Now, you know who would definitely make that super important?
Who?
Grant Morrison. Dun, 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 dun. This is what he's been waiting for.
Is he like the only one who cares?
Kinda. He's the one who made like the multiversity
Yeah.
multiverse map, and he's the one who writes Green Lantern. And the way he's been writing Green Lantern is all Green Lantern stuff is canon. He's like constantly referencing like Silver Age stories that technically should have never happened and stuff like that.
When you say technically never should have happened, do you mean technically they did happen?
Fair, yeah. Uh, but you could always explain stuff with hypertime. Which, by the way, Grant Morrison and Mark Wade are the two people who came up with hypertime. Which
Who came up with like the dark multiverse then?
the Dark Multiverse is a Scott Snyder thing. Scott Snyder is also the guy who's gonna make everybody remember everything soon.
So is it all his fault
I,
for making his Grant Morrison like universe and then hyper time and then making it just like what if that but worse?
I think the real like troublemaker is whoever did like Convergence and like said Crisis on Infinite Earths never happened and we got the infinite multiverse back.
Never not happened. A
Because I feel like Convergence is really what fucked everybody up. Because they kept going with the 52 universes thing post Convergence.
right. Like, it seems like Convergence is the most we had a big thing and then everyone didn't care about it.
Convergence is not the most that. Because I would say Future's End is the most that.
So
You
what?
remember that?
I didn't hear what he said. What was it?
Future's End. So Future's End was like these stories take place like so many years in the future. So we're
Is that the thing where they're walking through the big door and then nothing happens?
oh no. That's another Scott Snyder thing where they walk through the big
That's the other thing that doesn't matter.
right. It's funny that
Or does it? Dun, dun, dun.
so it's funny that you say that the big door doesn't matter. The thing that Ryan's referring to is in a Justice League comic, essentially the Justice League lost and the Earth was taken over by Doom and they essentially all died. But then right when the Justice League all died, they got summoned by like the most powerful people in the universe and there's this big ass door. And the Justice League is like, why didn't the most powerful people in the universe help save the day? And they're like, because we were protecting this thing that'll make all stories matter. Like, that's what they say. They say, this thing makes all stories matter. So we had to keep it safe from the bad
It sounds like they
guys.
keep trying to make all stories matter, but they don't even know what that is supposed to like what they want to that to be.
True. I agree.
Like so is this like with the remembering the publication, is this like the second time all stories matter? Like we've already had this big door thing?
So,
Like did the door thing work? Like did it actually make all stories matter? Because you can say that it happened, but if no one like writes a thing, kind of like the Convergent, like if no one cares and they're just still doing New 52, did it really happen?
fair. Like, I wouldn't say that the door thing is the first, like, it all matters. Because hyper time is also supposed to be like, it all matters. And,
Remembering the publication history means it all matters.
right, like,
So they have like
Superman,
3 or 4 of these already.
like, a whole bunch of them are like that. Like, Convergence technically is
It was
supposed
like
to
bringing back the
be all
infinite
matters.
multiverse, right?
Right. Because Jim Lee is like hyping on that like the infinite multiverse stuff is around like right now, even though he should have been hyping it up after Convergence and saying that it all matters and all the stories are in the infinite multiverse. But they didn't do that.
It's like Jim Lee. This is old news.
It is old news, Jim Lee fucking up. If Jim Lee was looking at Spinner Rack, he would have already known they all matter. Let's see. Um, Convergence is a hot garbage fire, but I think whenever they do like future stuff, and they say that like this is going to happen in the future. Oh, I lost connection with Ryan, so Ryan's call died. So that's the first time that Ryan's call has like died. And I think he'll comment on it as well. Boop beep boop beep poop beep poopy scoop boop beep boop beep boop bop boop bop boop beep. Oh, his phone probably died. That's probably what happened. So we're gonna call and see if the call doesn't connect. If the call doesn't connect, then his phone went to death. And we'll probably just end the stream. Because the video recording's already been going on for like a hot minute. A hot take. Yeah, so I think his phone's dead. That's understandable. Anyways, excuse me, my apologies. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, logging out. I don't know where my face went. I'm just like not in the screen anymore. I guess that's something I'll have to figure out later. Anyways, thank you all for watching. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, logging out. Peace. Check the guy.